Hello there and welcome everyone to the Trusted Advisor Show. I am your host today, Rob Jacomen, and I'm joined by, again, the hottest crew in town on this Trusted Advisor Show and the hottest guest that we've had in a long, long time. So we've got Devin and Ryan both co-hosting with me, and we also have a very, very special guest, which we are really honored and blessed to have on our show. I think it's somebody that is going to offer a tremendous amount of value to everyone. And again, what we are all about is bringing value to our listeners and anyone who's watching our show on our YouTube channel. But this person is really epitomizes the essence of a trusted advisor. He is one of those people that you need to have in your business as part of your fortress of trusted advisor relationships. And that's why we have him on the show. So we have Jerry Lotz, who's with CostSeg Energy Solutions. And Jerry, welcome to our show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here, guys. Appreciate it.
So Jerry has an awesome story. And I know we were introduced to Jerry by Devin. And Devin, you guys, you might want to share how, because this is what I'm always interested in. And it's really the foundation of everything we always talk about is building relationships, and why relationships in business are so important, because they can lead to so many awesome things, including being on a podcast, introducing to a client, and adding value to people's lives. And so to kick this off, and we're going to dive right in, Jerry, but to kick this off, Devin, how did you and Jerry meet? And tell us a little bit about that story and how we are here today.
No, absolutely. First of all, I'm very blessed to know Jerry, have him as a friend and relationship in my life. So Jerry and I met, I don't know, Jerry, probably 5-6 years ago through a local networking event. Then I went on and started something called Clipper City Business Builders, which he came along the ride with me on. We had a great group there, and we just developed a great relationship. I knew what he did for his business owner clients and his real estate clients. And, we've always been in touch. When Ryan and I started our business, he was one of the first people I called to let him know the news, because I know what he does, especially in our field, and a lot of the construction owners that we work with and real estate professionals. What Jerry does is a huge asset to us in some of our other relationships. So I'm just blessed to have Jerry as a trusted advisor relationship and as a friend. So it's been a fun 5 years knowing Jerry.
That's awesome.
Thank you, Devin. I appreciate that. And just to clarify, Devin and I went to competitive high schools a few decades apart, but we became good friends even though we were major competitors, and still are to this day on the high school field.
I like to try to forget that, Jerry. So everything I just said, can we retract that?
Well, isn't it amazing how things come full circle when we're talking about we're adults and we're talking about high school, but that is I found that it's such a
Baltimore
local regional thing,
Absolutely.
right? It's unique to the Baltimore region, but it's exciting because here we are now, how many years later, and we're all in business together. We're working together. We're looking to further build relationships and to see how we can connect one another and add value to people's lives. And of course, Jerry, that's why you're here. We would love to know more about what you do and what your business, and I know you've got a really unique model that adds tremendous value in all these different areas. And I think it'd be really interesting for you to share with our listeners exactly what your model is and what the value proposition is and how it benefits the end user that, your target market that you serve.
Okay. Well, thank you. So I'll take it back a little bit further than that, if it's okay, Rob. And
absolutely, go back in time.
I came from I'm local Baltimore, born and raised, and I come from a medical sales background. I worked for some great companies, really enjoyed that time there, made a lot of good friends, traveled extensively. And, a lot of the ideas that I had were able to come to fruition as far as growing business there. But there were often times in the midst of a multi-billion-dollar corporation, ideas that come from the field that for whatever reason are not allowed to mature. Somebody's got a different agenda. It's not in the budget, and it's not in the long-term plan. So I'd often thought, wow, I'd love to do something on my own. And when that opportunity came to really take a serious look at my life about 5 years ago, it was the networking routes that got me exposed to a number of different opportunities that are out there. So I swore to myself, if I do something for my own, I'll work for myself, I'll make my own decisions, but I need to be confident that the companies that I'm representing are what I consider best-in-class companies. They'll go to the wall for me and for any of my customers, and I can sleep at night knowing that they're always going to do the right thing. So the first company that I took on representing was this company out of Baton Rouge, Louisiana, called CostSegregation Services Incorporated. Now, they had been around at that time almost maybe 14 years or so. So now it's 18, 19 years that they've been in business, and their job is work. They're an engineering-based company. So they know the tax code as far as building and engineering is concerned to the nth degree. Most tax professionals know the tax code because it's so extensive. They'll know it a mile wide and an inch deep. Our specialty within the tax code is something that we need to know a mile deep and an inch wide. So what they do is they're an engineering-based company, and they work with building owners and tax professionals. So we don't compete with tax professionals. We're a trusted asset, trusted advisor to the tax professionals, actually, because we perform these engineering-based studies on residential rental properties, commercial properties, and multifamily properties. The results of these studies are given to the tax professional to apply to the return, and they accelerate the depreciation that's in that property. So we give the owner of the property more deductions early on up front, offset their income so they pay considerably less federal income tax.
That's awesome.
So
well, I know, Jerry, I wanted to just ask you a real quick question on that. We talked offline ahead of time, obviously, to prep for our show, and you gave a very specific example, and it blew me away, the level of savings and to me it was something that was a new concept for me. I never even really understood or heard about it.
Yeah,
and I'm thinking to myself, oh my gosh, this has tremendous value. Like, for anybody. I mean, do people know about this? I mean, is it something we need to, share as much as we can, because it's another strategy where it can add value to an owner, especially if they have those kinds of assets. Just tell us an example of that story you told us where there were significant savings.
Yeah. So the application, to answer a couple of your questions, the application of what's called cost segregation really came to the forefront back in the late 90s. There was a landmark case, American Hospital Supply Corporation versus the IRS. And the Hospital Supply Corporation actually won the case. And now there are formal protocol in place. In fact, the owner of CSSI was hired by the attorney that represented American Hospital Supply to put together a lot of the formal protocol that is used today. So in that case, they decided that there were assets that could be treated differently than in a typical straight line depreciation method. I guess to digress a little, a straight line depreciated method on a commercial building says you take the value of that building and divide it out over equal increments over a 39-year timeline. So somebody buys a $3.9 million building, they are expensing or depreciating $100,000 each year for 39 years until they have fully depreciated that building. We come along and put values on the components that make up that building that can be depreciated more quickly. So you think of that building and compare it to a Big Mac. Big Mac is a hamburger, basically. And that hamburger costs $4.99. The building's a building, and it costs $3.9 million. Those of us who are old enough to remember the jingle of a Big Mac, 2 all-beef patties, special sauce, lettuce, cheese, etc., will be able to relate to this because we actually come in as an engineering-based company on that Big Mac, equating it to a building, and we'll put a value on the all-beef patties, the special sauce, the lettuce, cheese, pickles, onions, and the total of those values on those individual components will add up to the $4.99 that's the Big Mac cost. The same as the total of the assets.
I'm hungry now.
There you go. The total of the assets in that building will add up to the $3.9 million. But some of those assets can be depreciated in 5 years, 7 years, or 15 years, depending on the IRS tax laws. And that's our specialty. And getting back to that specific example, some of the recent changes in tax laws have really been like manna from heaven, for lack of a better way to put it, dropping in the laps of some of these building owners. 2014, there was a tangible property regulations. 2017, 18, the Tax Cut and Jobs Act, and most recently, 2020, the CARES Act. A lot of those contained applications inside of inside the laws that are not very, very familiar, but are tremendous benefits. And in the example that I mentioned a year ago, I did a property. Gentleman owns about 14 Dunkin' Donut franchise locations. So he's sitting there looking at a year-end income of a little over $700,000. He builds a new location. So he had the land and then hires a site developer to come in and do the nice parking lot, curbs, site drainage, landscaping, beautiful, pristine building, state-of-the-art interiors, canopies, anything you can imagine. Spends $1.2 million in that building and the land developments. We come in with our engineering-based methodology and found a little over $600,000 that, according to the new tax laws, he could write off in that very first year.
Wow.
So now, so $1.2 million he spends, and we find a little over $600,000 that he can expense in that first year. Now, instead of looking at paying taxes on over $700,000, he's only looking at paying taxes on a little over $100,000. What a tremendous savings. So he's got that money now to be able to take, reinvest to build more locations, improve some of the other locations that he has, take a nice trip, whatever he wants to do with.
Wow. That's like, to me, it's almost like a shot of, you being able to like reinvest capital back into your business. It's almost like a shot in the arm, and it allows a business owner to continue to reinvest and build new and just kind of create and build some momentum. So I don't know, you guys have any, what questions do you guys have for Jerry?
So Jerry, so coming from the medical field to, something more in like the tax law and this side of the business, what kind of drew you to this? Because that's a significant change. You're working with doctors, you're calling on doctors and healthcare professionals to now working with, accountants and people that are trying to drive business that way and business owners. So what did you see? What intrigued you about this business that I'm gonna put all my eggs in this basket? I know this is the way to do it, and I'm gonna have a passion about it.
Sure. So I always was looking for, I guess, what I would consider a better mousetrap. And the whole through networking, actually, I met the folks that are affiliated with CSSI out of Louisiana. And I was just blown away and could not believe that such a tax application existed where you could go in and put a value on the crown molding that's in this 35-year-old building, or that you could separate out electrical components from assets that can be depreciated over 39 years and other electrical components could be depreciated 5-7 years, that you could actually put a value on the lines that are in the parking lot and depreciate those more quickly. So that just blew me away. I said, wow, why isn't everybody doing this? So I made a trip.
People don't know, I feel like.
Right. I made a trip to Louisiana and was just greeted by the nicest group of people. I flew into New Orleans, rented a car to drive to Baton Rouge, got in the parking lot, my phone rings, and it's the owner of the company. He said, well, I guess you're almost here now. I said, you're right, I am, and I'm supposed to be meeting with David, one of the VPs. So he said, well, come on in, I'll meet you at the door. So I'm thinking, well, I'll be there for an hour or so and meet with David, and that'll be the end of it. And the owner, Jim, greets me and brings me in and said, well, here's David and here's Warren, and let's go out to lunch. So we went out to lunch. Long story short, I spent a little over 3 hours with Jim, the owner of the company, just a salt of the earth kind of a guy. And just his charismatic personality, the way he is, has brought him blessings of like-minded people at home office. So there's probably 35 or 40 folks down there, and I can go to them with the utmost request and know that they'll always fulfill it for myself and for my clients. So it was, long story short, it was networking that opened my eyes to this application. And then I thought, wow, we're saving building owners money in this aspect. There's probably some other related aspects that we can save them money in as well. And the laws back in 2014-15 changed to where the new slogan was, there's cash for trash. So it reminds me of, when I think about it, a lot of people make a lot of improvements to buildings. So they'll go in and gut the inside and refurbish the inside. But there's a value in the stuff, basically, that the contractor throws in the dumpster that most people, a lot of folks, don't ever capture. The laws changed, and in our tax savings calculations, we were able to incorporate that tax savings. So a lot of companies were at that time thinking about upgrading their energy efficiency, and they're changing from old fluorescents to LED lights. And our company comes in and goes behind the contractor. So the contractor does a great job at figuring out the energy savings that switching to these new lights can bring, figuring out the environmental impacts, and all of a sudden the return on investment or payback is 24 months. We come in and look at the value of the wires and the ballast and things that they've thrown into the dumpster, and it decreases because there's additional tax savings. It may take that return on investment for 24 months down to only a year. So it was just fascinating, and that got me excited about the energy efficiency aspect of building. So some of the other things that I'm involved with are helping building owners increase their energy efficiency through retrofit devices that'll go on HVAC systems, in commercial properties, and even in the HVAC system that's in your and my basement. There are devices that'll go there that'll save anywhere from 10 to 30% on electricity consumption. Other devices will go on to commercial refrigeration and cooling devices, again, saving the same 10 to 30% in consumption. So I really got excited about the energy efficiency side and how combining those savings with the tax savings really can make the difference between some building owners, making it, especially in today's environment. So if, for example, some folks that may have had robust years back, 2015, 16, 17, and 18, and all of a sudden 2020 with the pandemic, they're really struggling. The CARES Act has an interesting caveat in it where if we go in, or if that client finds significant deductions, to create or zero out their income. So, for example, a client has a 2019 of $300,000 income, and they're filing 2019's taxes. We go in today and find $500,000 worth of deductions. So we zero out the 2019 income and then can take that extra 200 that's left over between the 300 income that they had and the 500 deductions that we found, carry that back 5 years and recoup refunds from the IRS when they had robust years to pay taxes.
That's amazing.
We have found that that's actually helped some people stay afloat.
That's
incredible.
That's a great strategy. It's actually something we've been hearing about that from some of our clients who are doing that and going through that exercise. And that's some of the good that's come out of recent changes and all the things that have happened this year. But since we're on the numbers, talk a little bit more about experiences, if you have any metrics or statistics on average savings, or, I guess for someone that's out there listening, that's wondering, like, is this right for me, for my business? Should I take this step to move forward? What do you typically see in terms of cost savings? And are there any scenarios where you go in and do one of these studies and there's really not much there in terms of savings for a building owner?
Ryan, that's a great question. And I'll start answering that by going back 15 years when I was sitting in a sales meeting when I was in medical sales, and it was about 11:45 in the afternoon. The VPS is up on the whiteboard, and there's 10 of us behind him. So he's fixated on this whiteboard, drawing out things. And all of a sudden he cocks his head and turns to us. He says, "You know what? You don't know what you don't know." All of us looked at him and says, "What the heck is he talking about? It's 11:45. Our stomachs are growling. Lunch is out in the hall. We can smell it." And he's talking about you don't know what you don't know. But it stopped the room silent. And from that day forward, I never forgot that saying. And it is so true. Your question about, what do you say to some of these people who wonder if it's for them, if it's not for them? I'd say, let us take a look at the numbers. We will look at a depreciation schedule if somebody's had a property for a number of years. We will look at the AIA documents if somebody is buying a property or built a property. We will look at, at a real estate listing if somebody is considering to buy a property and give an estimate of potential tax savings. I'm fortunate to say that 95 plus times we over exceed our estimates when the actual work is done. So yeah, it doesn't cost anything to provide an estimate of potential tax savings, whether property's newly bought, newly built, even if it's been owned for a number of years. Let us take a look at the numbers.
Good. So
and then from there, we've got decision-making information.
Yeah. So to expand on that, I guess if anyone's wondering, how to take the next step, natural question we get, I think in all of our businesses, is how much does it cost? What does it cost me to do this study or to move forward? So talk a little bit about your model and how you guys go about positioning yourselves with a building owner in a business.
Well, as far as rule of thumb is concerned, we estimate typically for every $1 million worth of a building's value, we can find anywhere from $30,000 to $90,000 in tax savings. So that's kind of a rule of thumb. As far as a cost structure is concerned, in that segment of what I do, their fees are not based on a percentage of the savings. So they're not contingent upon how much savings is derived. The company that I represent, CSSI, as I mentioned, has been around a little over 18 years and done projects on over 22,000 properties across every state. So our databases are very robust as far as, whether it's a medical office building or a self-storage facility, a hotel, restaurant. We can look at historical trends and, get an estimate in or a depreciation schedule and say, okay, this pretty much aligns with this sector of work that we've done in the past. We estimate we'll find X amount of dollars in savings, and the amount of work that's involved for us to do that will cost Y. So there's always a fixed cost for a project. That Dunkin' Donut project that I mentioned, where we found astronomical savings for the gentleman. So he spent $1.2 million building that facility. Our work was a little bit under $6,000 before tax. So that $6,000 is also a write-off for the owner too. So in real after-tax money, that's closer to $4,000. So he spends $4,000 and we save him what ended up being writing a check to the IRS for about $220,000.
So wait, can I use that too in my business? Can I say, whenever I save my clients like hundreds and thousands of dollars, man, Jerry, that's like such a great way to approach, and I think is extremely attractive. You're really looking at it. We talk so much about decommoditizing our industries, and with the value proposition, the way you described it, it's such a consultative approach. It's a way where every single situation is unique. Every situation is different in terms of its structure, whether it fits or doesn't fit. That's what I love about your model and how it fits into our whole trusted advisor. The way we look at those fortress of relationships for a client. And I love what you said. You said, you don't know what you don't know. And I've said that to business owners too. And it's true. You've been going on the same way for all these years, right? Business as usual. Sometimes you just need a little fresh checkup, and see what areas where you can add value. And I think that's what that was so unique about your model.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah. And I mean, the old saying, you do business with those that you know, like, and trust is so, so true. I spend a lot of time networking and with a number of different people in a number of different sectors. And, what I do takes more than 30 seconds to explain for somebody to really get a grasp of it. So I get that ample time when I sponsor a lot of CPA conferences. And it's been fun in getting to know that demographic of business professionals that are out there. And some of them, believe it or not, still turn a blind eye to this application. I mean, they think, gosh, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. The client has, we've been doing our clients' income taxes a certain way for so long. I don't want to do anything that's going to trigger an audit. And those types of mentalities that may have served them well, we've also seen those types of mentalities be precipitous in the tax professional actually losing clients, because all of a sudden, that client will be out in a social gathering talking to another business associate, and the business associate will say, well, has your accountant talked to you about cost segregation? You just bought this building. I had this building 2 years ago. My accountant hooked me up with this company that was able to come in and save me a whole lot of money on taxes. All of a sudden, the light bulb goes off and the wheels start turning in this one, in the CPA's client's mind. And he'll go back to the tax professional. He says, well, why haven't you told me about this?
Yeah, we hear that all the time.
Yeah.
We hear it all the time.
Yeah. And you all know yourselves. I mean, Ryan and Devin, you all work with a lot of CPAs. The CPA has got a very prestigious relationship with their clients. The clients will go to that CPA for every little thing and rely heavily, heavily, heavily on what the CPA says. So,
that's definitely true. It's interesting though that you bring up that point, because we talk about this a lot in our meetings with other professionals as well as clients. People sometimes are afraid of change.
They are.
Interestingly enough, this year in particular has kind of forced the issue for some people, where there's been a lot of change all at once. There's new legislation, there's remote work there's so many different factors that have gotten got tossed into the ring, so to speak. And, I think we all share some of the same struggles with getting people on board with accepting and adopting change, even some of our trusted partners. And what we find is that, sometimes bringing a fresh idea to the table actually makes you more valuable to your clients. Not, some people they get comfortable in doing the same thing every year, like you mentioned, preparing a tax return the same way. But
Right.
we would argue, and I think you're kind of on the same wavelength, and we've grown to know this about you, is presenting a fresh idea in that respect only solidifies that relationship more. There's nothing more powerful than being able to save people that amount of money, in my opinion. And we try to do that as well. I mean, I think we all care about our clients enough to find creative ways within the letter of the law. I mean, the reason it's written the way that it is so that we can take advantage of it, and not you can get up to that line, but you never cross it. And it sounds like this is something that it's that uncharted territory that people who aren't familiar with it just kind of stay away from it, because there's too many areas where they feel like they can get tripped up. But I always find it intriguing when people say, well, I'm afraid of an audit. I mean, getting audited doesn't mean that you're in trouble. It just means that they want to make sure that you're doing it right. So, there's a lot of clients that we have that go through that experience. I mean, I have one in particular that's been audited 6 years in a row.
Wow.
Does he care? No, because it never amounts to anything.
Right.
It's just a regular exercise. It's like, all right, get the box of files ready for as soon as we click submit here, we're going to be getting a call. And so, that those are types of things. It's always refreshing to see other people that are willing to, be aggressive and take advantage of some of the things that others aren't, that are out there. So, that's why we like working with people like yourself. And I think that's why we all like working together and creating these, we always go back to that board of directors. Like our job there, board of directors at a Fortune 500 company, your job is to increase value for the company. Most of the time, largely publicly traded companies, it's increased share value. The same is true for the guy who owns 14 Dunkin' Donuts or however many Dunkin' Donuts franchises. He wants to increase the value at some later date. He's going to sell it for something. And so if you can save money today, reinvest it, and build an empire of a bunch of franchise locations, that's what you want to do. So I think this is, for anyone out there that's listening to this and wondering, what value could this potentially bring to me? I think what I'm getting from this is it's worth having a conversation. The worst case scenario is you can't save them any money and we all move on.
Right.
Yep.
Right. You mentioned a couple of things that struck me out of that just brief conversation that you had there, Ryan. Going up to the line with the tax law and not crossing it, and triggering an audit. And I use those scenarios so much. And triggering an audit is probably one of the biggest misconceptions that are out there when it comes to us doing what we do. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. That mentality is out there. And the truth is that by doing what we call forensic scrubbing of the depreciation schedule and reclassifying those assets that make up that building, we are actually setting that client up to be the utmost compliant with the most recent tax regulations. In fact, the IRS says that part of their code says that if you don't go back and scrub these depreciation schedules and properly have these assets classified, if they go and look at your books and find that you have not done that, they can deny you from further depreciating that asset. So that's a little known thing that most folks don't know. So I encourage everybody all the time to let us take a look at a depreciation schedule. Let us, give you an estimate on what this process would cost. So of the 22,000 plus clients that we've worked with, some of them have actually come under audit scrutiny. It's not because we've done work from them. It's because something else flows out of the closet of there. Something else comes out of the closet. And of the 22,000 clients that we've done work for, the ones that have come under audit scrutiny, when that happens, the IRS just drags everything into it. Our work gets dragged into it, but the IRS has never, ever overturned any of the work that we've done on behalf of a client.
Jerry, I just have to say, and this kind of goes hand in hand with what Ryan was saying too. One of the things that we are such advocates for is, again, exploring innovation, exploring these new ways of looking at your business and enhancing the value of your business. And this is like why I'm so adamant about with business owners that if I make an introduction, Jerry, to you, for example, to one of my clients, you know, they know that I'm offering something that's real value, right? They know that when I'm referring somebody, they know that it's serious. And the only reason why Rob's going to do that is because we know that it's going to add value to our business. So for me, it's like I sometimes don't understand, and I guess that's the elephant in the room, is I don't understand why more business owners aren't open to, and I guess this is probably the $1 million question, is open to this kind of innovation or taking a deeper dive into your business and enhancing that value, enhancing all these different areas. Why not give it a try? There's no downside whatsoever. But one of the things I'm pushing so much lately, more than ever before, is getting out of your comfort zone and just giving things a try. There's no downside. There's not, it's not the end of the world, but you never know until you give it a shot. And just listening to you, it's just, to me, it's like a no-brainer. What objections have you heard, or what kind of challenges have you had to overcome to be able to, because you're so passionate about what you're doing? What are you hearing the most? Like, to me, it would be like, I would be dumbfounded if somebody didn't take you up on an offer.
Well, believe it or not, there are some folks that don't take us up on offers, and a lot of misconceptions out there, but there are some well-founded reasons why somebody may not want to pursue this. The biggest reason that somebody may not want to pursue this application is if they are a fixer-upper flipper person. So they buy a property, fix it up and flip it and sell it the same year or the very next year. If we did our process for them, we would find significant deductions in the year that they bought it. When they go and sell that property, there's going to be some of it that they're going to have to pay back. Not everything, but there's certainly an exercise in which called recapture that they'll have to pay back. Now, granted, they've had 12 months basically interest-free use of that money until they've had to start paying some of it back. But a lot of folks will use that, and it's a pretty industry-accepted argument for not pursuing a study if you're going to sell something in the same year or maybe the next year that you buy it. But as far as those other reasons that are out there, they're largely misconceptions. If someone has no tax liability, they may choose not to pursue a study at this time until their income has grown to where they have a tax liability. Yep.
That's where it would make sense.
Yeah. So those are a couple reasons. And, there's probably others that are legitimate reasons that are out there. Some companies won't do work on the properties less than $1 million. And, we oftentimes find value on $200,000 buildings and above. Anytime you can take, and get a 4-to-1 return on investment, I say to clients sometimes, kind of jokingly, well, if you gave me after tax $3,000 and then I gave you $12,000 back, would that be a good investment? Or if you took $3,000 to Las Vegas and came back with 12, you think you died and went to heaven?
Of course. Absolutely.
So, yeah. So it's a number of scenarios, but like you've said, and like this show is all about, it's really about the consultative approach and being gentle with clients, not trying to ream information down their throat, but gradually building that relationship and allowing them or instilling the confidence in them to allow you to get a little bit deeper inside their business so that you can figure out what's going to ultimately be most beneficial for them. None of us are going to force somebody to do anything that we wouldn't do ourselves.
No, you're 100%.
Yeah. We're just ethically and morally, we're not that kind of audience. I mean,
Yep.
The four of us here. So, and I know the majority of the population out there truly are good people.
Of course. So, yeah. We want to do what's right for the client. That's our obligation. Or, when a client hires us, we are accepting tremendous responsibility, and there's a lot of trust that goes into that decision. And, part of me, I don't know, I can't speak for all the other guys. Part of me wants to make that client proud, make them, really, put everything I've got into that relationship. So that, there is that proving that early on, that proving stage, but really lasting, having that momentum and lasting, and always, I don't care how many years a client has been with you, you should always be coming to them with new ideas and new ways of looking at things, and new partners, new trusted advisors. Because you never know. You never know what kind of value it's going to, and what it's going to do to enhance their business. So, well, I know we're getting a little over on our time here, Jerry, and we respect your time, of course. So I'm wondering if this is the right time to ask my favorite question of all time, because I love hearing all the unique answers. And listen, if you're listening today and you feel like we've been able to deliver some value to you and you like what you're hearing, please consider subscribing. We're always going to be putting out valuable content. Like, that is our number one priority. Is we're not doing this just for fun. We're not just doing this to hear ourselves talk. We're actually doing this because we're passionate and we care about delivering value, so we can help you increase the value of your business and maximize that value. So that's what this is all about. And that's what, really the show was founded on building on that foundation. So, Jerry, here's the question. The question of the day. If you are sitting, let's say, projecting out when you are retired and you're sitting in your rocking chair and you're overlooking this beautiful view, and you're just kind of contemplating going back and looking on your career, what impact, what value, and how do you want to be remembered, your legacy? What do you want people to remember you by?
Well, I think one of the first things I'd like people to remember me by was the fact that I always did the right thing. I'm an honest person. If I felt that something was shady or not the right thing to do, I wouldn't suggest to do it. I always acted myself personally with the utmost moral integrity, and I went to bat for clients, under-promised and over-delivered. I was a friendly person, always willing to help. And Devin, I can remember sitting in a networking meeting with you years ago, and you bringing up the phrase "givers get." And I've always considered myself a giver. You bestow blessings on others, and multiple blessings come back to you. So I've always wanted to be a friend, to share a happy story, happy smile, encourage somebody, and certainly do the moral, ethical thing in all of my interactions.
That's awesome.
Mic drop.
The mic drop, exactly. I love it. Jerry, just as we're bringing the landing the plane here, how can folks, if they're interested in learning more about your solutions and what you have to, what you had to share, the value you had to share with us today, how can people get in touch with you?
They can call me. They can email me. My cell number area code is 410-960-8269. Email address JLOTZ at CostSegES, CostSegES, CostSegEnergySolutions.com. I'm
Awesome.
local in the Baltimore area, but I can work with tax professionals and building owners all across the country.
Well, that's great to know. And listen, I'm going to put links to all the show notes
Super.
to everyone who wants to reach out to Jerry and at least explore. If you guys saw there's some value in that, then definitely. Jerry, we are extremely grateful to have you on the show. It's been such an enlightening experience. There's so much more I'm sure to cover that we'd actually love to have you as a guest again and bring you back as things
love to
change.
do it.
And
would love to do it.
I'm sure as administrations change and tax, situations change, I'm always sure that there's always something new and interesting happening in your world. So somebody like you has to stay on top of your game, all the time because things change. And so we'd love to have you back again.
We do. Thank you so much. It is a pleasure to work with the three of you again. And I so much appreciate the opportunity to be here today with you and ultimately with folks that are listening. As like you said, we are all trusted advisors in our own sense. Yeah.
That's right. All right, guys. Thanks again.
So much, Jerry. That was awesome.
Thank you, guys.
And
appreciate it.
As always, stay tuned because we're going to have some more hot topics coming up in future episodes. Thanks for everybody. Appreciate it. Take care.
Have a great week.
You bet.